Hey y'all, my name is Angelica Rubio, State Representative for District 35, and I was just wanting to come in and talk a little bit about the last, 48 hours. Since President Biden decided to step away from running for re-election, and we're learning now that Vice President Kamala Harris is likely going to be the nominee for the Democratic Party, there have been a lot of mixed reactions around people feeling really excited about Vice President Harris jumping into the race, and then folks who are just really upset about it. A lot of this response hasn't necessarily surprised me, just because I think we're just kind of in a really challenging place right now with all that's going on, not only with the genocide happening in Palestine and in other parts of the world, but so many of the challenges that we're facing here in the country, both in the present tense and also what folks are fearing for the future under a Trump presidency. Up until Sunday, so many of us were just wanting the president to not run for office, right? We have wanted for a very long time for him to not be our nominee, because they're just, one, we're against his policies, but also from a candidate perspective, he just wasn't instilling the kind of hope that a lot of folks, those of us, were really looking for. And since then, there has been a shift in terms of energy around people feeling a lot more hopeful than they had before, specifically because when we're thinking about local and state politics, more and more the chances of a lot of our champions to win their re-elections or their elections throughout state legislatures around the country, U.S. congressional races, both in the Senate and the House, like, it really was relying so heavily on the top of the ticket, and whether or not people would turn out for President Biden or Vice President for President Biden. Now the energy is different. There's like more the state of play is different now for all of these down ballots, because people have become so excited about Vice President Harris's becoming potentially the nominee for the presidency for the Democratic Party. I share all of that because I think what I'm hearing now from folks over the course of the last 48 hours, particularly from like Biden loyalists, blue no matter who, the leftist intellectuals, is that either the Democratic Party dropped the ball by not moving forward with someone else, not having enough time for a convention to look at a number of different candidates, and then also just in terms of leftist intellectuals just feeling like either way we're fucked. Like, all of that can and is true. Like, this process could have been done differently. I, as someone who has not supported either Biden or Hillary Clinton in the last 8 years, or however many years it's been since 2016, I didn't support any of those candidates. And with that said, I also wish that there was more time to do an entire convention. We've been asking for one since last year, when demands were being made that Biden not be the nominee for the Democratic Party. And what I've experienced in the last 48 hours, or at least observed, because it hasn't happened to me directly, but I'm seeing it happen in other in social media spaces, particularly here on TikTok, but mostly on like Instagram, is that there's people are just shaming people for what they stand for. You have like I said, leftist intellectuals who are straight up like not going to vote, or they're voting third party, which I totally respect 100%. But then shaming people who are going to vote in the election in November. And then you have the blue no matter who, Biden loyalists who, one, were pissed because they feel like he was pushed out. And then there's a segment of the blue no matter who are shaming people for now not supporting Kamala because of her policy stances from the past, which are which many people who have issues with Harris are they're valid. They're absolutely valid. And so there's shaming coming from all places. And the folks that I've been thinking about the most are people who don't actually know all the mechanics of what's happening. Like regular people who are just trying to get by every single day. Like, what are we supposed to tell them? Are we supposed to tell them not to vote? Are we supposed to tell them that are we supposed to have this long debate around policy with a lot of people who are just trying to survive every single day? And so I'm sharing all of this because I think it's really important that as we talk about the election over the course of the next 2 months, that each of us believes really, really strongly about how we feel about this election, whether we support the candidates, whether we don't support the candidates, whether we oppose the systems in which we live in. Like, all of these things are all valid. And I think it's important to recognize that every single person, especially folks who are trying to do the right thing, who are trying to understand what is happening, that we need to provide people with some grace. Like, if you're supporting Kamala in the election in November, awesome. Like, I respect your decision to do that. I don't want you to be shaming people for why they're choosing to maybe not vote for her. Like, I'm not gonna support that. But I don't think it's fair either for people who don't believe in the systems in which we're living in to also shame folks who do participate in electoral politics. Y'all, I'm an elected official. I don't believe in these systems. I feel like our systems are oppressive, but I also come from a place of I can't also sit this one out. I can't just sit around and wait for a revolution to happen. I can't wait for the system to be completely dismantled. Like, I can participate in electoral politics and still work towards liberation for all of us. Like, things can be the same. The two things can be the same both can be right at the same time. And so I'm sharing all of this because I think over the course of the last 48 hours, I have just seen so much just really ugly types of behavior from folks who I'm just kind of shocked by, that they would shame people for certain things, for certain beliefs, without actually engaging in them in a way that I believe we should be doing as organizers. And don't get me wrong, I have my moments, and I'm trying to also model better behavior around that, because these are really weird ass times, and I'm just trying to ensure that the communities that I represent are not left behind as we work towards making life better for people. So with that, y'all, I'll leave it at that, but I hope that we can just really start to think about how we're pushing our own beliefs, and that there's no one right answer. Like, we're all wanting liberation for everyone, and I hope that we're all being a part of doing that. Peace.